Oh, hi there. I'm just trying to figure out what movie I should watch next. No, 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 maybe. Big no. I don't want to watch any of these. I know. My science project. This is my science project. I built it all the way back in the 5th grade. It uses quantum data and brainwave triangulation to determine which movie you're most likely to want to see the moment you press the red button. And it materializes the movie for you too. Let's give it a shot.
Target acquired.
No. Let's try that again.
Target acquired.
Okay, now we're talking. My science project. From my science project. What are the odds? Back in 1985, Hollywood was obsessing over science-y movies. This was the year of Back to the Future, Daryl, Real Genius. Hollywood was doing all it could to craft stories involving weird science, like in Weird Science. One such movie released in 1985 didn't have as much success as its contemporaries did. A low-budget science fiction movie called My Science Project, directed by Jonathan R. Betuel. Betuel. Let's see, what else did Jonathan Betuel direct? My Science Project is a story about high school student Mike Harlan, who finds a mysterious device in an old Air Force base and passes it off as his high school science project. Little does he know, the device came from outer space and can wreak havoc on the space-time continuum. The movie was made on a tight budget and fell far short of making the money back in theaters. So why did My Science Project fail at the box office? Well, let's give it a watch and find out. Here we go. We open in the year 1957 at Dawson Air Force Base. President Eisenhower arrives in the middle of the night because an alien spacecraft crash-landed in the desert and the military brass have no idea what to do with it. Perhaps they could study it to discover what kind of—
Get rid of it. Right away, sir.
Okay, so after the scientists fire up their laser guns and destroy it, the movie jumps ahead to present day, or in this case, 1985, where science teacher Mr. Roberts is talking with his students about their science projects.
I'm doing the effects of ultraviolet rays on plant fungus.
That's out of sight, Ellie. Would you call me Bob? Because only the pigs call me Mister.
Mr. Roberts, an aging hippie, is played by Dennis Hopper, an aging hippie. I'd like to think Dennis Hopper's character from Apocalypse Now returned home from Vietnam and just became a science teacher.
Come on, I used to be your age once. Way back in the 60s.
See you later, Bob.
Protest songs, white rabbits.
If you can keep your head when all about your losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust
TNT.
yourself and all men doubt you. I mean, I can't, I'm a little man.
Here we have the movie's protagonist, Mike Harlan, the kind of student who aces shop class but doesn't have much of an interest in science. We also meet Mike's spunky best friend, Vince, a cheeseball with legs who dresses like he's about to botch a 7-10 split and spouts so many bad one-liners that I'm just gonna have to keep track of them.
Sit on this, butt plug.
We'll see more of him later. Mercifully, he leaves the scene. That way Mike can get the hard news from Mr. Roberts.
Well, you know, I don't make the rules around here, right? But, bottom line, golden rule. No project, no diploma, babe.
I thought maybe I could, rebuild a carburetor or something, if that's okay.
Do something special, something original. Come on, man.
So the pressure is on for Mike to come up with a dynamite science project. After school, things get even worse for Mike when he gets dumped by his girlfriend.
Michael, I want to be swept off my feet, serenaded, worshipped like a goddess.
Come on, bullshit.
That is exactly what my Cosmo Romantiscope said you'd say, Michael. Ta-ta forever, monkey wrench.
Meanwhile, the school's resident male nerd Sherman is hitting on the resident female nerd Ellie.
Ellie, I know it's short notice and everything, but I was wondering, maybe you want to go to the prom?
Look, Sherman, can we talk about it later? Okay?
Sure.
But she's interested in someone else.
You're the last picture for the yearbook, and I need some stats from you now. Your major?
Yeah.
Major. I don't know. Auto shop.
It's funny how they made John Stockwell's character such a lover of cars, considering 2 years before this movie came out, he was starring in Christine, a movie about a killer car.
Hey, yo, Mike!
Oh look, here comes Vince, the movie's unrelenting comic relief. He's a 75-pound walking Brooklyn accent.
Oh, yeah? Well, what does she want?
You know, romanced. Swept off her feet.
Swept off her. Yeah, I just swept her off her feet, all right, with a letter.
On his way out of the student parking lot, Mike gets stuck behind a traffic jam caused by Ellie's broken down car.
What's going on, Sawyer, huh?
If I knew that, Harlan, don't you think I'd fix it?
I don't believe this. Okay, Sawyer. Distributor caps don't just pop off.
It's confession time. I need you to save me from being voted senior class spinster.
What?
So Ellie faked the breakdown, but hey, it worked because Mike is so broken up about getting dumped by his ex-girlfriend, he agrees to go.
Okay, Sawyer. Pick you up at 8. Be outside, all right?
Smart move, Ellie. Or was it a smart move?
Doesn't anybody wine and dine a girl anymore?
Because later that night, Ellie finds herself being swept off her feet and swept into the scrapyard of the now defunct Dawson Air Force Base. And I think you know where this is going.
What are we doing here?
We're here because I need a project to graduate. I can't do anything scientific. So I figured, I might be able to find something that I could pass off as my science project.
And it's in this secret hidey hole that Mike finds the odd device that he plans on passing off as his science project. On the way home, it doesn't take long for things to start getting weird.
Well, glad to remember.
Look, I don't get it, and it just died. Doesn't make sense. I just tuned this thing. What's going on?
I don't know, man. Did you check the glowing piece of strange equipment in the backseat? Could it be that? Could it be the thing pulsating with energy in your backseat?
Could it be?
Well, his car is broken down, and Mike is so egotistical about his mechanic skills that he can't stand the idea of walking into town.
If I walked into town, the whole world would know I broke down.
Come on, it happens to everybody.
Yeah, well, not to me.
Then why are we standing here?
Just to be safe, he calls Vince to come push his car to Ellie's house to drop her off. You could have just walked into town, and then people would be like, oh, he's on a walk, cool. Now you're making it very clear to everyone your car is broken down when you have another car push it through town.
Motorhead Mike broke down, huh? Wait till we spread that around school.
Wait, people actually do care? And you're gonna spread it around school? Are you a teacher? You look like you're in your 50s. But all things considered,
Good night.
Night.
not a bad date.
Let's go, Vinny.
Yo, blasting off!
The next day at school, Vince and Mike are spending lunch in shop class when Mike is cleaning the device and accidentally activates it.
Look. We're hallucinating, right? No outer limit I ever seen had this stuff.
And if that wasn't weird enough, when the two step out of the garage to take their science final, they discover that 2 hours have mysteriously passed without them knowing.
It's gotta be wrong.
Oh, yeah? So how come everybody's leaving like school's over?
They're so perplexed that they go to the library and ask Sherman for some books on the topic. And Sherman gives the typical download of information for movies that deal with space-time and warping and such.
Einstein theorized it would take tremendous power to break through a dimension barrier. And the danger is that once you unleash the power, you'd lose control of it.
Yeah, and then what?
Chain reaction could start. And boom! You're all cosmic dust!
Afterward, Mike and Vince catch up with their science teacher, Mr. Bob, and convince him to check out this strange device.
Hey, I seen lights like this at an Ozzy Osbourne concert.
Mr. Roberts hooks the device up to the outlet and starts to become, one with the machine.
Infinity! What a rush! What a rush!
And the machine eventually makes him disappear. Well, Mike, the good news is you don't have to worry about your science grade anymore. But the bad news is that the device is still powered on, and the more electricity it sucks up around it, the more powerful it gets. And it's spreading like a virus.
Michael, is Bob dead?
I don't know.
Great, there goes my D.
Look, if we break the connection, the gizmo can't reach the power station, right? And nobody will know anything.
So what's the plan?
Blow up the power lines outside of town.
So after the three borrow some dynamite from Mike's dad's hardware store, they hightail it to the outskirts of town, quite literally racing the electrical charge that originated from the device.
Okay, hold on!
Unfortunately for electricity, Mike's packing some serious mustard underneath that hood.
Whoa, now we are talking hyperspace!
The three blow up the power lines before the whatever reaches it. But their troubles aren't over yet. I'm gonna fast forward through some of these next parts. It's not that it's boring, it's unnecessary. All you have to know is that the cops show up looking for Mike because some bullies outside the school ratted him and Vince out right after Mr. Roberts disappeared, and then Mike calls Ellie asking her to go to the school to pick up the device to bring to the police station to explain the situation to the cops. But then Ellie runs into Sherman at the school and Sherman's going crazy and he decides to plug in the device. It doesn't get good again until Mike and Vince show back up at the high school to find Ellie.
Hey! Oh, head boy Sherman.
What are you doing here?
Let me go. The whole school's in the warp.
What are you talking about?
Look at that! It's the end of the world.
Gia Fellaini.
Look, man, you coming or not, huh?
Okay. But if I'm gonna wind up in another dimension like Barbarino, I'm going in there packing.
So with great trepidation, the three enter the school to find Ellie and hopefully disable the device. But to their horror, find the school's been completely overrun with dry ice and ghosts.
The warp's expanding. This is like a crossroads of time and space.
And for the next 15 to 20 minutes, as the three descend further into the school and further into the device's influence on time, it's just one thing after another. First, they're attacked by an ape-man.
Son of a bitch, what do you call this, Wawa?
Actually, I think you'd call it a Neanderthal man.
Hey, scope that f***ing in the tutu.
No, that's just a gladiator, who Mike wrestles with but eventually takes down.
He's dead.
The three continue through the halls of the school and through the halls of time. They eventually run into some Vietnam. And it looks like some Viet Cong soldiers captured an American pilot. After the gang dispense with the Viet Cong soldiers, they meet the pilot whose life they just saved. And guess who it is? That's right, it's Dennis Hopper from Apocalypse Now.
Blaming it on you if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you.
No, I'm only kidding.
I owe you one.
Yeah.
The pilot doesn't introduce himself. He just says thanks and leaves.
Ciao.
Did the pilot leave the school and wander off into town? It's only 20 or 30 years into the future for him, so is he gonna run into an older version of himself? Or maybe not, and he originally died in Vietnam? This is getting confusing. After that, they run into some future humans.
Go ahead, make my semester.
You know they're from the future because they're shooting lasers. Let's see, after that they head into the gymnasium, they find a big T-Rex, and you know Vince is about to say something. You can see it in his face. He's gonna say something stupid, where is it?
It's God-funking-Zilla.
Anyway, the T-Rex proves to be a pretty big challenge, but not too big for a big grenade in its tummy. After the T-Rex is taken down, the gang head into the science classroom and find the device.
Ellie?
Mike bravely rescues Ellie and then approaches the device to unplug it. After lots of yelling and loud noises, the machine finally powers down. Mike disappears, and then he reappears. And that's pretty much it. Outside, they regroup and find the police and firemen have the situation under control. And hey, look who's back.
We will go! Chicago!
Mr. Roberts?
It's Mr. Roberts, and it appears he's had quite a trip through time.
I was blasting through the warp on a time tour of the 60s. I don't know what even to say, man. Trip, man!
Anyway, with everything back to normal, Mike returns the machine to the Air Force Base where he found it, and drives back into town with Ellie. Comically, his car runs out of gas.
Wow, it's lucky we're close to town.
But wouldn't you know it, this time he isn't uncomfortable with walking into town anymore. Not a knock your socks off kind of ending, is it? But your ending isn't gonna be very cathartic when you make your main character's central flaw that he has a slight ego about cars. His character flaw in no way ties into the climax of the film. When Mike goes to unplug the machine, I don't really care or feel like he's in danger. He seems to be able to handle himself in virtually any situation. The movie never painted Mike as cowardly or hesitant.
Hook it up. No, I'm not gonna hook it up. You hook it up.
Fratello, come on.
He'd be perfect for a supporting character, but as a main character?
What?
Meh. Another weak part of the movie is the movie's climax, wherein Mike has to walk over to the device and unplug it.
How much time do we have left?
45 seconds.
There's a lot of movies out there where the ultimate goal is to disarm or deactivate a thing.
The fuck is this? You can defuse it, right? Are you kidding me? Look at all this crap.
But in most cases, it's not as simple as flipping a switch or pulling a plug. The hero has an obstacle blocking them, usually the film's villain. But in my science project, it goes like this. Mike needs to unplug the device. He sees it and walks up to the device and unplugs it. The end. And in a sloppy move, the movie makes Mike disappear, a failed attempt at creating tension, because obviously we know he's coming back, and does so seconds later. Mike saves the world with little to no effort. It took bravery, okay, but like I said earlier, Mike was never short on bravery. So how could the ending have been more tense? An easy fix would have been to move the device and Ellie into the same room as the T-Rex. So instead of Mike having no barrier between him and saving the world, all three would have had to contend with a 20-foot dinosaur while trying to unplug the device and save Ellie. This would also give Vince and Sherman something to do instead of just sitting there watching Mike do everything.
Sherman, shut up.
Been sucked up.
Sherman, just shut up. You're making me nuts, Sherman. You're making me crazy.
But with all that said, this movie is pretty entertaining. It's a fun, campy adventure. The movie leans into the archetypes to a comical degree, like Sherman's uber nerdness or Vince's larger-than-life Brooklyn attitude.
Hey! Yo, Sherman! Hey, how's life in the fat lane, huh?
Fisher Stevens is actually a pretty fun actor to watch, and I don't think it's his fault he comes across so obnoxious in this movie. The writers gave Vince 10,000 one-liners to rattle off.
You know, I kind of feel like Gregory Peck in The Guns of Navarro. My ears are ringing like the Gong Show. I can't hear nothing. 17 years of TV down the drain. Hey, chill out, Mr. Spock. After you, lunch meat. Uh-oh, something tells me we ain't in Kansas no more, Toto. Oh, I don't believe this. I could be at home watching Magnum.
Stop whining, Latello. Come on, let's go.
Whining? Barney Rubble just tried to flame me out. You ain't exactly been the perfect date, Reenie.
Since when?
Since it's 10 o'clock and you still ain't turned into a pepperoni pizza.
Dennis Hopper brings some fun to the movie too. I don't really know what to call his brand of acting, but he just Dennis Hoppers his way through the lines and it's never not fun. New York Times back in 1985 referred to this as a cheap Back to the Future, and that's not the worst comparison. It's cheap, but it's fun. There's even an end credit song with the movie's title in it, and those are always a good decision. So there you have it. Give my science project a watch. And with that, I place you on top of the pile. And now I need a new movie to talk about. Machine? What movie do I watch next?
Target acquired.
Oh shoot, I think it overheated. Well, let's see what's on TV.